Hey there, I'm Caleb Wojcik, a freelance filmmaker, and I'm here with Westcott to film for a local food truck. And when we were filming inside the food truck, it's pretty small, it's pretty cramped, but we did want to light it and get the most out of the space and to try to make it look as cinematic as possible. So we wanted to bring some lights inside the food truck and film, and in this video we'll walk through some tips and tricks for filming inside of small, tight spaces when you do want to bring in some lights. For equipment, we brought with us two flex mats, a 1x1 RGB-W, so it had a full color spectrum, and one bicolor, so it had daylight and tungsten. The reason I wanted to go with flex mats is, number one, they're small and can be put pretty much anywhere. We had a cube on one of them, so it would just kind of bring up the ambient light level from one side of the truck. And on the other side, we had a scrim frame on the other one, so we could kind of prop it up on a shelf or up on the refrigerator to bring some backlight as well. Another perk of these is that you can run them off of battery power, so we used V-mounts so that we didn't have to plug into the food truck at all, we didn't have to have wires hanging wherever, so we just put the battery right with the light and had it all compact in those small spots. When we first got in there, we actually had too much light, so I wanted to cut down as much as possible, but still use some of the window light. So what we did was we shut the back door on the food truck so that you couldn't really see outside the food truck. We also gaffed off the top skylight, the vent of the food truck. So it did start to get a little toasty in there, but we did just want to kind of control the light as much as possible. So all we were left with was the actual window where they serve customers food and take the money. And that was the only light coming in other than what we brought in ourselves. Then to bring up the ambient a little bit, we wanted to try to match the exterior light that was coming in as much as possible. So if it was sunny, we probably could have gotten away with just using a bicolor or a daylight mat, but we ended up using the source match on the RGB-W to get closer to the cloudy temperature that we were dealing with. And then for a backlight or a kicker, we experimented with using tungsten a little bit for some of the more cinematic setups, some of the slow motion shots that we played around with. We also used an ice light sometimes, just because it's so much easier to get that somewhere. Maybe someone can just hold it in the right place for a single shot, then you can move to the next shot. All these smaller lights are really helpful when you're in a tight space like this. And just because you have the ability to do pretty much any color doesn't mean you have to. Not all of your shoots are going to look like music videos or something fancy. We didn't end up using any of the colors, but having the source match on the RGB-W was really helpful. And then to do some more glamour shots, we wanted to try to get even more cinematic. So we actually closed that front window and only used lights that we were providing, that we were turning on. So it is a different look. It might not be what you want for every shoot, but we experimented with that versus, more of a natural daylight look. And it really depends on your project what you want to use. The biggest thing is, if you don't control your lighting, someone's not really going to know where to look in your image. There's going to be way too much going on sometimes. If we'd have left that back door open, or if there would have just been way too much light, we just blew it up with as much light as possible, the viewer would have just looked anywhere. But when you kind of control the light, shape it, point it at the exact things you want people to look at, subconsciously they're just going to start looking to those things and not look at the background or other things that are distracting. So it's a really powerful tool, just like using the right lens or using color. Lighting is a really powerful tool to make people look where you want them to look. What other tips do you have for either filming or lighting in a really small space like a food truck? Let us know in the comments below this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.